So, some of you might be able to remember what it's like to be 11 or 12, either because you're closer to that number at your current age, or because you have the ability, as some people do, to recall specific birthdays or moments in your life. Maybe you kept a diary and you could even go back and look at the very day that you turned 12 to recall what it was like. I have a couple of friends who can just remember specific birthdays, which always astounds me. I have absolutely no memory of turning 12, but I do have an understanding, as the author Sandra Cisneros so aptly described in our first reading, that I am all of my birthdays, all of the years and experiences, that I'm 12 and 5 and 29 and 37 and even 50. In the reading, I think the reason they don't understand about birthdays is because parts of growing up are a mystery. I mean, it all happens to us. We were once small and we got bigger, but the rest of it, it's all a little different for each of us. Just consider the billions and billions of combinations of living and experiences and family and friends and jobs and world events and amazing successes and terrible tragedies that all come together in individual lives, like each of yours and mine and all the people that are so dear to us. Certainly, the majority of things that make up our lives are similar, but the combinations are unique. And part of the mystery of living is how the same experience can happen to different people and have such a different effect. I mean, even within the same family. It's a mystery why some of us get more years in this life than others, or face more or fewer challenges along the way. These mysteries continue to reveal themselves with each passing year, and we may or may not appreciate them as they're unfolding, and yet the truth is that our lives are a constant revelation, and that is certainly something to celebrate. And so here we are on Celebration Sunday. Today we pause to say thank you, as we just did, to all those who contribute to making this a place of learning and exploration and wonder and love. And maybe like a birthday, it's a day to mark that another year has passed, a year full of stories and questions and art projects and sermons and the fair booth and the Christmas pageant and Palm Sunday pancake breakfast and 3 youth groups, lots of excellent adult education opportunities, and 8 creative and very fun food for the soul dinner worship services, lots of visits, walk and talks and tears and laughter, and a great mission trip, and another one coming right up on the horizon. So we have a lot to celebrate, and as I said earlier, our church is growing, which is exciting and no small thing these days. It's growing because you are part of it. You've chosen to make it an important part of your life, hopefully because when you come here you find inspiration that supports you and challenges you and makes you wonder and invites you to respond. We have a lot to celebrate because God shows up in our lives in ways that are surprising and sustaining and mysterious. So the sermon title today, We Believe in Mystery, is a reminder, too, that we are not fundamentally fearful people, but we are Easter people. And maybe that sounds a little trite to some of you, and maybe some of you have no idea what I mean by that, so I'm going to tell you. Being Easter people means that we are not still sitting, crying, or depressed in front of Jesus' empty tomb. Being Easter people means rather that we know that love is stronger than death. Being Easter people means welcoming mystery because we know that that's how God speaks to us sometimes. Easter people are full of hope. Easter people live in the moment. We are flexible and compassionate. Easter people know that mystery isn't scary so much as exciting. When anything is possible with God's help, our lives will be full of opportunities to minister, love, explore, teach, and learn. And this all sounds great, I know, but then sometimes you can't even get out the door on Sunday morning. So what to do? I'll speak first to those of you who are parents of young children. Here's the beauty about mystery. It follows you everywhere. It's right there in your front hallway when you're holding two of your child's mismatched shoes with baby throw up and someone else's breakfast on your clean shirt, and you're wondering if you have enough gas in either your emotional or literal gas tank to get to church and back. What I'm saying is the mystery isn't here in this meeting house. It's here in my heart and in yours, and in Sophie's heart and Sawyer's heart and Greta's heart and Chris's heart and Ryan's heart, and it's everywhere, and it's in all of us. Because you see, no one's ever seen or heard anything like this, never so much as imagined anything quite like it, what God has arranged for those who love God. And when Paul shared that idea with the Corinthians, he admitted that he didn't know what he was doing. He tells us how unsure he was, how inadequate he felt, how scared. Not so different, I suspect, from most of you along your parenting journey. Paul realized he had to trust God and embrace the mystery of it all. Otherwise, like most of us know all too well, he'd just become overwhelmed. Eugene Peterson translated Paul's words by saying, God's wisdom is something mysterious that goes deep into the interior of God's purposes. The experts of our day haven't a clue about what this eternal plan is. If they had, they wouldn't have killed the master of the God-designed life on a cross. I chose the two readings for the kids here today because I think that they know what mystery feels like. I think they're really good at wondering about things, something that the rest of us seem to forget how to do as we get older. Over time, we become adept at instantly making judgments and assumptions and decisions about so many things that we forget to leave room for the possibility of the mysterious, favoring instead the knowable, the quantifiable, or the understandable. Certainly, we prefer to know things instead of admitting that we do not know much of anything. But mystery is such an important part of our faith, and I think that the youngest people among us have perhaps some special insight into that reality. I came across that phrase, "we believe in mystery," in a book that I received a couple of weeks ago when I attended the annual meeting of the New England Association of United Church Educators. It's a book called Faithful Families Creating Sacred Moments at Home. It's written by a woman named Tracy Smith, who's a minister, and she was the keynote speaker at the meeting, and we'll be using this book next year in some ways that I'm really pretty excited to tell you about, but won't be doing that until we all gather back together for Homecoming Sunday. We're going to be using that book next year. And the author offers that phrase, "we believe in mystery," to parents who feel anxious about the kinds of questions that their children might ask, or the kinds of questions that other children might ask in Sunday school, questions like, what happens when we die, or how do we know it's spirit when we can't see it, or if God is so loving and good, why do bad things happen? Thankfully, we aren't meant to understand or even answer all of those questions. We don't need to have answers, we just need to have faith that as we live and grow and practice our faith over time, we'll come to understand these questions in new ways. We'll accept that some of them are mysteries that will be revealed in time, while others may remain mysterious for years to come. We may begin to gain a little bit of insight or wisdom if we're willing to keep asking questions, even though, as I said, our tendency is to look for answers and weed out what we know from what we don't know, as if we could arrive at a place that is safe or that somehow guarantees us a spot in heaven. Except that's not how it works. Mysteries are revealed in God's time, not ours. That's why when you turn 12, you don't all of a sudden feel 1 year older or wiser. You don't receive the revelation of 12-year-olds in a box wrapped up in pretty paper and a bow. The truth is that as important as we are to our loved ones and friends, and as much wisdom and experience as we gather over the course of a lifetime, we are really very small in the greater scheme of things. And that's all part of the mystery. The idea that we could know even a fraction of all there is to know in the vastness of the universe, on this planet, in this country, this culture, this community is, well, as Paul said, it's just not possible. The only power capable of knowing all that is God's power. Paul says we have some wisdom to pass along. There's maybe enough to get you pointed in God's direction, but then it's up to you to take the steps as you walk along your way and begin to consider some of the bigger questions that lie ahead of you. And so now I'm speaking to you, FaithWorks students who've come today to receive a blessing. You're just starting out on your journey of life and faith, and you're blessed with so much, with families that love and care for you, and schools where you can get an excellent education, and friends who support you, and opportunities that'll prepare you to work in the world when you finish your studies. And so I wish for you, we wish for you 15 boys, Nathan, Danny, Kit, Charlie, Timmy, Wesley, Jackson, Peter, Ryan, Henry, Aiden, John, Brandon, Matthew, and Chris. I wish for you a life full of mystery, of questions that inspire you to search, quandaries that spark your imagination, messes that are hard to clean up, confusion that will keep you up at night, troubles which you will overcome, dilemmas that will give you a pause, pickles and stews that will marinate you well in a life, so that the result is tasty, sweet and salty, bitter and sharp, all of it part of a life that is full and deep and blessed by God. What we can offer you here is a place to hold all those mysteries, like the song I chose for the offering today. We can offer you a context in which to explore all there is that's ahead of you. We offer you opportunities to try your hand at service. We introduce you to complex situations and people you've never met, and we ask you to jump right in. We recall to you stories about our spiritual ancestors so that you can understand how the same mysteries led them throughout their lives and developed a faith in them that was sustaining until their time on this earth was done. We show you images and words and resources about how other people of faith make choices in their lives so that you can begin making your own. But there are still some things that you will never know. Frederick Buechner says it this way: there are mysteries you can solve by taking thought. For instance, a murder mystery whose mysteriousness must be dispelled in order for the truth to be known. There are other mysteries that do not conceal a truth to think your way to, but whose truth is itself the mystery. The mystery of yourself, for example, the more you try to fathom it, the more fathomless it is revealed to be. No matter how much of yourself you're able to objectify and examine, the quintessential living part of yourself will always elude you. That is the part that is conducting this examination. Thus, you do not solve the mystery, you live the mystery. And you do that not by fully knowing yourself, but by fully being yourself. So that, my dear FaithWorks young men, is what we wish for you, to be fully yourselves, whatever that looks like, whatever mysteries you grapple with, whatever remains obscured or confusing, whatever makes you anxious or uncertain, whatever joy or passion overtakes you, may you know that you can always find people here who support you along your way. I think that Sandra Cisneros understands this. It's a mystery, this growing up thing, turning 11 and then 12, and now some of you are 15 or 16 or 17, and some of you are 61 or 40 or 73 or 92. And no matter how old you are, there is always the mystery of who you are. And that grows and deepens and reaches out into the world and makes a mark on people you love and learn from, on the companies and schools and institutions you serve. The mystery of you leaves a mark on all those people and places, even as God calls you deeper into the practice and purpose of your faith. I like Cisneros' idea that we hold all our previous years inside us like an onion or the rings on a tree. And if you could peer inside the tree of your life, maybe you'd notice in one spot a few rings that are really close together with very little space in between them, and you'd be reminded that those were dry years, hard years, when the water of life didn't fall so frequently on your fields. Or maybe you'd see one ring that's really good and wide, and you recall that life was full and lush that year. And speaking of full and lush, maybe you've noticed the 8 words that are framed on the easel here. These were the themes for our 8 Food for the Soul dinner worship services. They are some of the values that we uphold in this church: kindness, honesty, creativity, hospitality, balance, compassion, thankfulness, and adventure. These are the values that all of you demonstrate, that you live out in what you do and what you say, in how you participate in the life of this church and the example you offer for the children and youth here today. In these values, we find some mysteries revealed. In practicing them, we draw closer to God and live into our fullest being. Before we go, I want to make sure that you're hearing me say a few important things about this community, about us as a church. First, as a church, we are a group of people who practice our faith. Like everything else in life, we cannot expect that we're going to master this practice immediately, just like it takes hours to learn how to ride a bicycle, or weeks to learn how to safely drive a car, or years to learn how to play the flute, or many more years to become an architect or a doctor or even a minister. It takes a lifetime to explore your faith. It's a mystery that never has an answer. Church is where we can practice our faith, try it out, learn to pray, think about how serving others connects us to each other, to our neighbors, and to God. This is a place to sit and let the words and images and stories wash over us and see what happens. Are you drawn to the Holy Spirit? Have you seen the face of Jesus in someone you've met? Does God speak to you? What makes you feel included and loved? Who listens to you? How does being a person who is inspired by the life of a man who lived 2,000 years ago in a totally different time and culture make you stop and think about what matters to you? What is God asking of you? Some of us gathered in this room right now have already had our faith tested in different ways. Maybe you've lost a loved one, a parent, a friend, or even a child. Maybe you've been sick. Maybe you spent months without work and felt lost. Maybe you're struggling in school. Maybe you've had a friend betray you. Maybe your children have just moved away from home and you have to rethink the shape of your days. Maybe you're dealing with difficult people and are uncertain of how to proceed. Maybe you are finding your physical body limited and are struggling to make adjustments. Living with mystery is not always easy. Sometimes it's painful and makes us question the order of things. A life of faith is always growing. There are always new things to hold and honor, different challenges and unexpected joys, things to embrace and things to let go of. A full life in faith is a place to hold it all, even if, like the singer today said, all you can say is, God, I don't know what you want from this life, but I'm trying. And it reminds me of one last important thing to remember about church. The only way we can hold it all is by God's grace. This is a community and a place to experience grace, to know that we are in this together, and that even when we make mistakes or say hurtful things or let someone down, we're called to do our best to admit our faults, get back up, and try again. So whether you're 12 or 5 or 55 or 95, I hope you celebrate mystery today along with all the great things that this Church of Christ is working on in our community and in the world. I hope you add another ring to your tree that is your life, and I hope you keep wondering what's next, not with too much anxiety or fear, but with wonder and amazement about all that God has already shown us and all that is to come. Amen.